Hey guys, welcome back to channel. So what's up in this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto become Demo Hollow in Elements Nation? This is part 1 and if you want more then please leave a like, share and subscribe. Let's get in the video. 12. Let's call them beings, since they certainly are not humans. We're standing in a place which was completely white all around and above them. Unlike the sides and the ceiling of the place, the floor seems to not even be there, as it looks like the 12 of them are standing on air. They are looking at something which was happening in the place called Konoha, in the Land of Fire. They are watching a small, blonde-haired, 12, maybe 13-year-old kid. He was dressed in an old orange jumpsuit, which was torn up in many places, showing the kid's pale skin. Because of how damaged the jumpsuit is, the 12 beings could see how skinny and malnourished the boy is. They could also see that the boy has some scars and bruises all over his face, as well as his body. There was also dried up blood on his face and cloths, or at least what's left of the cloths. Anyway, the boy is currently on his knees on a high platform in the middle of the village. His hands are tied behind his back, while his ankles are tied to the platform. He was looking down below at the mass of people who have gathered to watch his execution. The boy did his best to memorize the faces of the latter ones, as they are the ones who care about him, and he wants their faces to be the last thing he sees and thinks about before his imminent death. It took him a while to memorize all of their faces, probably because one of his eyes was shut from the swelling, which he got from the beating he was put through the last few days ever since he was thrown into prison. The fact that he also has a concussion from all the beating didn't help with the memorizing. After he memorized the faces of his precious people, few as they might be, he looked around himself at those who were standing on the platform. He had trouble seeing them with just one eye, but he noticed that all but one of them wore smirks on their faces, while the last one, the fifth Hokage herself, had a blank look on her face. She looked neither happy nor sad. It was like she wasn't even there, mentally. One of the people who were on the stand, Naruto recognized him as one of the elders of the council, walked at the front of the execution platform, and started to explain how Naruto is the village traitor who almost killed the last Uchiha on the mission to retrieve the said Uchiha from the clutches of the traitor Orochimaru, who kidnapped Sasuke Uchiha from the village. He said that because of what Naruto did to Sasuke, causing him grave injuries, which could have been fatal if not for Tsunade, Naruto was sentenced to death, and Sasuke himself will be the one to perform the execution. While the old man was giving the speech to the masses, the 12 beings above them were watching the scene with mostly blank looks. "What is going on here?" asked the smallest and the youngest-looking member of the group. Her name is Lininette, and she was wearing a helmet with 2 horns on the top of her head. The left horn looks as if it has been cut off, and the left half of the mask covers her left eye. Her right eye is light pink, with the left eye covered by her mask and a flame design over the eye socket, and she also has light green hair arranged in a very basic manner. She was dressed in a white-colored briefs with a black line positioned in the middle, arm warmers, a revealing vest with a high collar and thigh-high, fur-lined boots. The most interesting thing about her is the hole positioned in the center of her stomach. "Who is that kid? And why are you showing us this?" Her question was addressed at the tall female, wearing a regal clothing like that of a princess or a queen. She looks like she is in her early 20s, has long, light brown hair and blue eyes, along with 3 blue marks on her face, one of which is in the middle of her forehead, while the other 2 are below and to the side of her eyes. The most noticeable thing about her is her unearthly beauty and presence, which was felt by the other 11 beings. It didn't surprise them, though, as she was a goddess. After all, now that you see this kid, the goddess spoke. Doesn't he bring out some memories? There was a silence after that question, as all 11 beings, plus the goddess, were looking at Naruto. His face, to be more specific. "Yes," said one of the beings, whose name is Ulquiorra. This one is a slender, yet fairly muscular, male of average height with a melancholic appearance. He has fairly short, messy black hair, pale white skin, a black upper lip, and green eyes with small slit-shaped pupils, similar to a cat's. Part of his bangs fall between his eyes, and he has distinctively thick eyebrows. He has teal lines which descend from the lower part of his eyes. He wears a white jacket, black sash, and a white hakama. His jacket, though, has longer coattails than the others in the room, who also wear similar clothing. His collar is higher than the others have. The most noticeable thing, a hole on his throat, He does seem familiar for some reason. I just can't figure out why, since I'm sure I have never seen him before. Ulquiorra speaking the whole sentence was a surprise for the others, as he was very quiet and barely speaks, unless personally asked a question. They decided not to pay attention to that right now, because, just like Ulquiorra, they all seem to have memories of Naruto, and just like Ulquiorra, they can't figure out why. I feel like I'm he and he is me. This came from a man named Sailaporo. He is a tall and thin male. He has shoulder-length pink hair with bangs on the right side of his forehead, with two thin lines missing hair on the left side of his head and amber eyes. He has a rectangular framed glasses, giving him a scholarly appearance. Sailaporo wears a long shirt that covers his entire torso up to the top of his neck. He has 3 stripes on his uniform, each starting at his collar with 2 running to each side of his chest and 1 down the middle. He wears the regular pants with a slight length taken away. He also wears white gloves. Technically, you are correct, Sailaporo, the goddess said, drawing looks from everyone else. Well, partly anyway. What does that mean? Sailaporo asked. The goddess didn't say anything right away, and instead, she was looking down toward Naruto, who was just impaled through the heart by Sask's Chidori. They were all listening, as with his dying breath, Naruto said to Sask that Sask is a traitor, how he is not his best friend, he never was and never will be, and how killing him will not give Sask Mangekyo Sharingan, like Sask and most of the villagers were hoping. The goddess and the others watched as Naruto died, and then his soul left his body, before a small red orb separated from Naruto's soul and disappeared. This surprised everyone but the goddess, as she knew what that was. What happened next, though, surprised them even more. Naruto's soul glowed black before it split up in 10 different orbs, each different colored, which then flew toward the sky until, one after the other, they all disappeared. Another interesting thing that happened was that the necklace Naruto had around his neck, the same one Tsunade gave him, broke into 10 different pieces, and they also disappeared. Once Naruto's soul disappeared, the goddess snapped her fingers, and Konoha disappeared from everyone's sights, turning the floor below them all the same white color as the walls and the ceiling. As you have heard, the boy's name was Naruto Uzumaki, the goddess said, and then went to explain about the boy's life, from the night of his birth until the day of his death. The red orb which separated from his soul was Nine-Tails' soul, which will eventually reappear somewhere in the elemental nations. What happened afterward is that Naruto's soul broke into 10 pieces. Each piece ended up in Hueco Mundo, where they became hollows. Over time, those 10 pieces would rise in power and rank, with one of the pieces actually splitting once more. The goddess noticed that it has finally started to dawn, where she was going with this explanation, on the minds of the beings in front of her. Those 10 pieces would become the 11 of you. After Stark over there split his soul once again to create Lillinette. The silence which followed after it was revealed that Espada all used to be one human boy, before his death and the break of his soul, was unnatural. It was quitter then on the cemetery during the night. Eventually, it was broken by Sailaporo. But how is that possible? He asked. Human souls can't break into pieces like that. At least not naturally. Instead of answering the question right away, the goddess went and snapped her fingers one more time, before the eyes of the Arankars glowed and then glazed over for few moments. What was that? Asked a tall, muscular man with light blue spiky hair and light blue eyes, the latter including green lines below them. His name is Grimjow. Grimjow's attire consists of a white hakama, a black sash, and a ragged white jacket with an upturned collar. The inner lining of his jacket is black and Grimjow wears it with the sleeves rolled up and leaving it open to expose his muscular chest. The remains of his hollow mask consist of the right jawbone, and his hollow hole is located on his abdomen. Grimjow sports a large scar across his torso, gained from his battle with Ichigo Kurosaki. The other Arankar wondered the same, though smarter ones, like Sailaporo, seemed to have figured it out. Those were Naruto's memories from when he was alive, the goddess said. After he died and his soul broke, all the memories of his life were buried deep into all of your minds. I just brought them out. Do you now understand why Naruto's soul broke? The goddess asked. Do you understand the kind of life he had is what caused his soul to crack when he was still alive, until it finally shattered when he died? Sailaporo is right. Souls shouldn't shatter like that without something powerful causing it to break. Pain and suffering Naruto felt and experienced during his short life were powerful enough to break his soul, and over time, create all of you. All of you represent something about him. His feelings, his experiences, his desires, his aspects. All of your powers are dependent on how powerful his aspects were. Seeing the confused looks, the goddess decided to explain. For example, Yami. The goddess looked toward Yami Largo. He is by far the largest of the current Espada. Yami is a giant Arankar with tan skin, a powerful build, and a ridge-lined cranium. He has brown eyes, black hair, long, bushy sideburns, and a thin ponytail reaching his upper back. Aside from this, he is bald. He has orange eyebrows and red markings under his eyes. He wears the standard Espada uniform, with the only difference being his jacket is always open. Like all Arankar, he has a large hole signifying his previous time as a hollow. His is located in the center of his chest. What remains of his hollow mask is the jawbone, complete with 8 teeth, which rests on his chin. A tattoo of the number 10, signifying Yami's rank, is on his left shoulder. In his released form, the 1 melts away, leaving just the 0. Yami looked toward the goddess, waiting to see what she will say about him. You are the strongest of all 10 of you, and your aspect is rage, the goddess said. That's because of all of Naruto's aspects, his rage was the strongest. It even eclipsed his loneliness, which became Stark's aspect of solitude. The same goes for the rest of you. She was now looking at everyone, and not just at Yami. The more powerful one of his emotions was, the more powerful you became as representation of those emotions. Representation of Naruto's aspects. The goddess paused and had a thoughtful look for a moment, while looking at Baragan, Ulquiorra, and Zamari. Baragan has the appearance of an elderly man, with a left olive-green eye, a white mustache, and white hair. His face is lined by large scars on the left side of his chin that goes down to his neck and across his right eye. Despite his aged appearance, Baragan is quite stocky and muscular, and when standing, albeit with the slouch of an elderly person, he is of a fair size. He wears a regal white leather coat with black fur lining, short sleeves, and 3 black fur stripes running along the bottom. He wears a golden wristband on both wrists, and a belt consisting of 3 thick chains attached to a large metal disc with a sun emblem. Overall, he resembles a barbarian lord of Viking origin. The remnants of his hollow mask take the form of a 5-pointed crown just above his forehead. The location of his Espada tattoo is unknown. His hollow hole is in the center of his chest. Zamari is a tall, muscular, dark-skinned Arankar with noticeably large lips. The remnants of his hollow mask consist of a row of bony spikes along the crest of his head, forming something similar to a mohawk hairstyle along with a pair of skull-shaped earrings and a thick, bony necklace. However, it is uncertain if the necklace may also be a part of his hollow remains. This gives him somewhat of a witch doctor appearance. He is also bald and has golden yellow eyes. Zamari's uniform conceals his Espada tattoo and consists of a long Mandarin-style Arankar jacket with a small opening at his chest area. He wears a default hakama like all other Arankar, although his sandals resemble traditional martial arts training shoes. Zamari has 3 triangle-shaped tattoos on his chin. He also has 4 lines running down from his forehead directly above his eyes that end with dots appearing as exclamation points. These are on both sides of his head, giving him a total of 8 lines. The 3 represent senescence, nihilism, and hedonism, in that order, and that is what's confusing the goddess. Naruto was 12 years old when he died, the goddess said. So the reason behind one of the pieces of his soul becoming Baragan, or why it represents senescence, is beyond me. Ulquiorra's nihilism. Maybe I can understand to a certain point why some of his beliefs can be considered nihilistic. I don't understand Zamari's aspect at all, she outright said. Nothing, absolutely nothing about Naruto would make me think that he has even a whiff of hedonism in him. It just doesn't go with him, just like senescence. Everyone thought about what the goddess said, while casting occasional looks at Baragan, Ulquiorra, and Zamari, but since none of them could think of an answer to the goddess's doubts, they decided to let it go for now. There was one question on everyone's minds at that point, and the one who finally asked it was Tyr Harabel. Harabel is a tall female Arankar with olive skin, aqua green eyes, thick eyelashes, and short golden blonde hair. which she usually keeps messy with 3 braided locks. She wears a variation of the Aaron jacket with a high collar, which covers the lower part of her face downward, while bearing a good portion of the lower half of her large breasts. The jacket has a zipper running along its entire length, which is opened from the bottom upwards. It has a beige air filter on either side just below the trim. The jacket sleeves completely envelop her arms, terminating in black glove-like extensions at her extremities, resembling the appearance of a cat's paw. The remnants of her hollow mask consist of the sides of her face, her mouth, and an extensive area below and around her neck extending down to, and also covering, her nipples. She usually hides these remnants from view with her jacket. Her Espada tattoo is placed on the left side of her right breast. The location of her hollow hole is in her lower abdomen where her womb would be. What happens now? Harabel asked. What is the real reason you brought us all here after our deaths? The goddess noticed that everyone's eyes were now on her, so she smiled and said, I brought you all here because I'm going to fuse you all back together and recreate the original Naruto Uzumaki. Once she said that, several Arankars, who were more open about showing their emotions and facial expressions, like Yami, Lilinette, and Grimjow, had their jaws on the floor, while several others had their eyes wide open. The only thing noticeable on the faces of Ulquiorra, Berrigan, and Stark are raised eyebrows. Is that even possible? Asked the weakest piece of Naruto's soul. Aranyero Araruri's face is usually concealed behind an elongated, white mask covered with 8 holes. He dons this while in the light and also while around his fellow Espada, as he has grown weary of questions and offhand remarks regarding his appearance. Right now, though, he was without the mask, so everyone could see his real looks, which are disturbing, to say the least. In place of a normal head, he has a large, cylindrical glass capsule filled with red liquid, with 2 small hollow heads suspended within its confines. The 2 heads are both tattooed with the number 9 and tend to talk in tandem when revealed, giving the effect of 2 people speaking in turn. The upper head speaks with a deep voice, while the other speaks in a high-pitched, childlike voice. Each head appears to have its own level of individuality. His outfit, like that of most Espada, is customized. He wears a dress garb that covers his entire body as opposed to the normal jacket and hakama. He also wears a frilly noble's coat that acts as his replacement jacket and a single white gentleman's glove. The remains of his hollow mask are on both of his heads, the upper head having 3/4 of itself covered with the mask, and the lower head having only half of itself covered. His hollow hole is located in the left thigh area. I'm a goddess said. I can do almost anything. Fusing you all back to how you used to be before the split is easier than you think. And why would you do that? Harabel asked. Why just not let us disappear now that we are dead? The goddess sighed. Naruto didn't deserve to die when he did, she said. He has a big destiny, and allowing him to die was a big blunder on my part. You may think that I'm all-powerful, and to a certain extent, I am. Of course, there is a limit to everything, and some things even I can't do, or am not allowed by the universal laws. I knew the kind of life Naruto had since he was born, and I kept an eye on him, because I knew that there would be those who wish his death. I spent 12 years looking over him, keeping him alive in several cases, but the one time I was occupied with something else, he was executed right away. By the time I found out, he was already dead, and I couldn't do anything, since his soul already broke and the pieces went to Hueco Mundo. I was so angry after that. I almost ended up destroying the elemental nations, and the only thing that stopped me were my siblings, who reminded me that I would be punished if I hurt mortals. At that point, the only option I was left with was to wait for all of you to die, so I can bring you here and fuse you back. Once the goddess finished, she looked at the faces of all the Arankars, and saw that most of them had angry looks on their faces, but few had curious looks. One of those with curious looks was Ulquiorra, who asked, Why is Naruto so important that you spent so much time guarding him, and now are going as far as to fuse us all to recreate him? Naruto is the child prophesied to either save or destroy the elemental nations, the goddess said, getting raised eyebrows from every Arankar. That's why he is so important, and why his death is something that should have never happened. Once a prophecy is made, no one is allowed to manipulate it and try to make it work how they want. The prophecy about Naruto was told to Naruto's former teacher by his summons, and he told it to his own teacher, the third Hokage, who then decided they should keep quiet about it, which is a good thing. The bad thing is that they decided to manipulate the prophecy to work for them. They wanted Konoha and the Land of Fire to be the strongest in the elemental nations, so they allowed Naruto to be starved, abused, both physically and mentally, and many other things, while at the same time, the third Hokage played a grandfather figure in Naruto's life, making Naruto think he actually cared about him, when he didn't and only wanted Naruto forged into a weapon to send after everyone except Konoha and the Land of Fire. Of course, they couldn't just train him to become strong, or let him have a normal life and do as he pleases, as they thought that he could become uncontrollable. Every time he was tortured, Hokage knew from the start and even ordered some of the attacks. He would wait until Naruto is just about to be killed, or until he took enough damage that it would take a while even for the Nine Tails to heal, before he stopped the attack and then took Naruto to the hospital. Then, he would play the concerned grandfather, who would tell Naruto that the villagers don't know what they are doing, and that he should learn to forgive and forget. He is the one who implanted the thought of becoming Hokage in Naruto's head, as he thought that if Naruto aspires to something like that, it would keep him loyal to the village and do everything in order to get recognition. The third is also the one who allowed all the beatings and who allowed the sabotage in the Ninja Academy. Naruto needed to be mentally held back, stupid and pliable, so that the day won't come when he would start asking questions the third didn't want answered. In the end, all of those tortures, mental and physical, mental manipulations, starvations, all of it, led to Naruto being considerably weaker than he should have been at the time of his death. But even with all of that, Naruto would have changed the elemental nations in one way or another, but with his death, the prophecy was left unfinished, which will lead to a complete destruction of the elemental nations. Do you all understand now why it is important to recreate Naruto and send him back to the elemental nations? The goddess asked in the end. After a lengthy explanation, a silence was what followed the question, and it lasted for a few minutes, with no one saying anything. They were all thinking about all the stuff they learned, and about the question. Eventually, Sailaporo started to talk. You said that Naruto is prophesied to either save or destroy the elemental nations, right? The goddess nodded. And now you say that if Naruto isn't sent back, the elemental nations would be destroyed? Another question and another nod from the goddess. You do realize that after everything you just told us, there is no way that Naruto would save anybody and would destroy the elemental nations with his bare hands. If he was sent back, why send him at all, instead of just letting the damn place be destroyed and be done with it? The goddess sighed. Now that you have all of Naruto's memories, and know that not even the third Hokage cared about him, as he thought, I can't blame you for wanting to destroy the yin and be done with it, as you said. But you need to understand that there are still people there who are innocent and who care about Naruto. Without Naruto, every living being on the yin would perish, and that doesn't just mean humans, but animals, insects, summoning animals, everything would die. If Naruto is sent back and goes on a complete rampage, destroying everything in sight, there will still be survivors here and there, unlike what would happen without him there. With him, even if destroyed, the yin could be rebuilt. Without him, there would be no life left. Every Arrancar wondered what could possibly cause the complete eradication of life in a place as big as the elemental nations, but they chose not to voice the question. Instead, they all thought about what should they do, and should they accept Goddess's proposal and fuse into Naruto, or should they refuse and just disappear forever? It didn't take them long to realize that whatever they chose, they will no longer exist as they did until then. They will all disappear in one way or another. Eventually, they all came to the same decision. We accept. They all said at the same time. The goddess smiled at them. She was happy about their decision, not just because that decision is going to give Naruto another chance in life, but it will also save many lives. She frowned for a second, as she understood that even though many lives will be saved, about as many, if not even more, will be lost to newly reborn Naruto's wrath. I just hope they don't kill too many people, the goddess thought. My sister will have a lot of job because of that, and I don't want to listen to her complaints. The goddess looked at all 11 Arrancar and said, I thank you for this decision, and I hope that once you are all joined together, you will have a happy life, something which was denied to you all so far. The others didn't say anything, thought a few nodded, and then watched as the goddess's eyes glowed, golden, and then they all started to glow, before, one after the other, they all turned into a golden light, which combined together to form a ball of golden energy. The situation in Konoha hasn't been the best in the last 3 years, ever since the execution of Naruto Uzumaki. While the citizens of Konoha mostly hate Naruto and wanted his death ever since Nine Tails was sealed inside of him, the same can't be said for the people from the other nations whose lives have been touched by Naruto in one way or another. The citizens of countries like Wave, Wind, and Spring have all grown to like Naruto and respect him a lot for what he has done for them during his short life as Konoha Shinobi, which is why they were not happy when they heard about Naruto's execution. No, they were pissed off as all hell. As such, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone when they all broke off the alliances and trade agreements with Konoha and the Land of Fire. For those in the Land of Fire and Konoha, it was a shock to them when it happened. They didn't understand why it happened in the first, and when they found out that it was because of what they did to Naruto, they were confused at first, but then Konoha residents started cursing Naruto's name even more than they already did, as they thought that he is tormenting them even from hell, where they thought he is there, as they believe him to be a demon. They were confused, because Naruto was never mentioned in any reports about helping anyone in any country. Instead, Kakashi, the third Hokage, and the village elders were changing the reports, making it look like everything good that Naruto did for other villages was in fact done by SASK. So, all in all, the people of Konoha, both civilians and ninja alike, think that SASK is the one who saved Wave Country from Gato, that he is the one who defeated Gaara and saved the village when Gaara released the One Tail, and finally, that SASK is the main reason behind Dodo's defeat and the saving of Princess Koyuki Kazahana. When the alliances were broken, it was revealed that they were broken because of what happened to Naruto. But the reason behind why all those villages and countries respect Naruto so much was kept quiet by the higher-ups of Konoha. They wanted everyone to believe that SASK is the one who saved those countries, while Naruto had nothing to do that, and because of that, Konoha and the Land of Fire have been slowly degrading over the years. At the time of Naruto's death, Konoha was the strongest hidden village in the Yin, while Land of Fire was the most prosperous country, but after Naruto's death and the broken alliances, the lack of money because of the decrease in missions has caused Konoha to fall down on the third place among the 5 great hidden villages, with Cloud and Stone being the first and second, and Sand and Mist fourth and fifth. Just like Konoha, who has suffered because of the lack of money as there were less and less missions as the time was passing, Land of Fire was suffering equally from the lack of trade and zero alliances, as everyone has turned their backs on them after the Fire Daimyo has been revealed to have supported Naruto's execution. It was not revealed why he allowed it, but he did, and just like those in Konoha, he is now having problems coming up with the money to run the country. Several months after Naruto's execution, Tsunade suffered a mental breakdown and was sent to a mental institution, while Danzo has been named as the 6th Hokage. Danzo being made a Hokage didn't help Konoha one bit. Instead, it actually made things worse for them, because people from the other countries knew who he was and what his wishes were, so they stayed away from Konoha, but were preparing themselves in case of the invasion by Konoha, which, knowing Danzo, wouldn't have surprised anyone. If Tsunade has stayed the Hokage, the situation would still be bad, but maybe there would be some countries who would be willing to do something to help, since she is actually liked and respected all over the Yin, even by Konoha's enemies. The moment Tsunade had a mental breakdown was the moment the countdown to Konoha's doom has started. No one knows the reason behind Tsunade's mental breakdown, but those who knew her and of her close, mother-son, relationship with Naruto assumed it was because of what happened to him. To this day, 3 years after Naruto's execution, no one knows why Tsunade went with it and didn't try to stop the execution. In the minds of all of Konoha's citizens, her blank face from when she was standing on top of the execution platform was engraved forever. Many have theorized that she tried to stop the execution, but when the council and daimyo overruled her, she snapped and only was able to hold herself from going completely under for a few months before she finally broke completely. Unfortunately, they weren't sure if it was that or was it something else, so they just decided to let it go and learn to live with it. With Danzo as Hokage, he implemented his root program and made the village more militarized than it was, which led to the other nations also increasing the military power. All of that increase in shinobi in all 5 great nations, along with some smaller ones as well, turned the whole Yin into a giant bomb, just waiting to explode and send everything straight to hell. As the things are now, all five great nations are standing alone, without alliance between two of them, like Leaf and Sand used to have alliance until 3 years ago. The fact that they are all standing alone is the reason the great nations haven't started another war, as each country is afraid that if they attack one country, another might use the opportunity to attack them. Of course, none of the Great Five are just seating around. On top of them increasing their military potential, by increasing the number of ninja as well as train those they already have to reach their maximal potential. They are also trying to make alliances with smaller countries. That wasn't going easy, though, because there is mistrust between everyone in the yin, and no country trusts another enough to form alliances. But there are a few exceptions, where alliances are formed not based on trust, but mutual need. One such alliance is between Stone and Sound, where Third Tsuchikage and Orochimaru have formed alliance in order to build power together and eventually bring down Cloud and Konoha, and then go after the rest of the yin. The only alliance which was built in the last 3 years, and which didn't have anything with building military power, was the alliance between Sand, Wave, and Spring. The alliance was built after they all severed their ties with Konoha because of what happened to Naruto. It was a respect they all for Naruto, which was a starting point for the meeting between the leaders of the three nations, which led to an alliance, which was supposed to better the life for everyone in each of the three countries, as each of them had something that the other two would want and find beneficial. Other than the two alliances, there were some negotiations between some other countries, but nothing was agreed on, as of yet. The closest to reach the agreement for the alliance are Rain Village, Star Village, Waterfall Village, and Grass Village, who are trying to form the alliance to battle against the big nations, in case they decide to use their land as the battleground like they did in the past. Rain is secretly led by the Akatsuki, and that was revealed to the other three nations during the negotiations. The reason the leader of Akatsuki and the Rain decided to reveal that was so that the other three nations would realize how powerful Rain actually is, considering that they have 10 S-rank ninja in the village, which is more than any other village in the elemental nation. If this alliance is made, then it would be the most powerful alliance of all others in the elemental nations, and nothing short of all 5 great hidden villages, allying, would be able to go up against them. Naruto decided to change the subject and asked, "Tell me about my powers. I feel different than I felt when I was human, but I also don't feel like a hollow either. So what am I right now?" The goddess thought about Naruto's question for a moment, before she said, "Technically, you are a human/hollow hybrid." She saw a confused look on Naruto's face, so she explained better. "As you have probably noticed by now, you no longer have a hollow hole, nor the remnants of the hollow mask." Naruto nodded. "That means that you are not a pure hollow. You are more like Ichigo Kurosaki and the other Vizards, yet still not the same, since they are Shinigami and human, with hollow infection. You are a human with inherited hollow power." Naruto thought about it for a minute, before it came to him. "So, basically, I'm like a product of one parent being human and the other a pure hollow?" The goddess nodded with a smile. "That's the best way to explain it." Naruto looked at his hands for a few moments, and then asked, "So which powers do I have? I can feel Bother Chakra and Ryuryoku, but which of the powers I had as Espada do I still have?" The goddess shrugged. "Pretty much all of them except Resurrection. You are not a full Arankar class hollow, but a hybrid, which means you don't have Resurrection. On top of that, you have your full power at your disposal, with none of it sealed inside of the sword or anywhere else, which means there is no need for a Resurrection. Of course, you can power up by releasing more of your Ryuryoku." Naruto rose his eyebrows in confusion before he cast a look at his sword, which reminded him too much of Ichigo's Bankai sword, though different colored and was inside of a sheath. He also cast a look at the 2 pistols. "Then what's up with these weapons? Where did they come from and why do I have them? Remember when I was showing you the day of your execution?" the goddess questioned, and Naruto scowled, as he was reminded of that. He didn't answer, but the goddess knew he remembered, so she continued. "You saw how after you soul broke, the necklace which Tsunade gave you also broke into 10 pieces. Naruto nodded, as he remembered seeing that as well, though he didn't know why that happened. "Well, the necklace broke into 10 pieces, just like your soul, and those pieces basically joined with pieces of your soul. Over time, they would become Zanpakuto-s, each Espada was carrying." Naruto's eyes widened. "You mean to tell me that the weapons Espada were using for so long were made out of pieces of a necklace? The goddess nodded. That necklace meant a lot to you, just like Tsunade did. Even though you didn't have it for too long, there was still a bond, which is why the necklace broke after your death, and the pieces tied themselves with your soul pieces. Naruto shook his head. This is getting ridiculous and really hard to believe, he said. It might be a little bit hard to believe, the goddess said, but it's the truth. But anyway, now that you are fused back together, all the weapons Espada had, fused as well, but not into a necklace or into one weapon, but instead into two different weapons. A sword made out of 5 pieces of the necklace, and the 2 sibling guns made from the other 5 pieces. The reason they became a sword and a gun is because all of the Espada were using swords before they go into Resurrection. It is something in common with all of them, which means that of all the weapons it could have turned into, you have the most experience with swords, unlike with scythes and axes, which were only used by 2 parts of your soul. The guns were also only used by Stark, but he was the strongest of Espada, not counting Yami's Resurrection form. So you have more skills with guns than with scythe and axe. Do you understand now? She asked at the end of her explanation. Yes, I understand, Naruto said, while looking at his weapons. But why the sword looks like Ichigo Kurosaki's Bankai blade, only white instead of black? Honestly, I have no idea, the goddess said, making Naruto face fault. How can you not know? Naruto asked. Weren't you the one who fused me and my weapons? Yes, she said. I did fuse you. But it wasn't me who decided which weapons you are to have, nor was I who decided what they will look like. Maybe the sword looks like that, because Espada who fought against Ichigo found it to be interesting, so your subconscious made it like that. Naruto thought about it and realized that it might be the case. Ichigo has fought more Espada than anyone else, and 2 Espada were defeated by him. So it is possible that those parts of him wanted to have a blade similar to the one they lost to. Naruto sighed. Now what? As I said, now I will send you back in time, to the same day you originally died, but to a place a little away from Konoha. The goddess said. Why that particular place? Naruto asked. Wherever it is, there is someone there who will die unless you save her, the goddess said, and Naruto groaned. Again with this saving stuff, he said, while shaking his head. Naruto then looked at the goddess and asked, Why do you want me to save this person? Because she is your family, the goddess said, and Naruto's eyes went wide in disbelief. The original you always wanted a family, and while you are very different now than you were back then, I know that deep down, you still want family and someone to be there for you, and not always be alone. Naruto was quiet. He was standing there in the heavenly realm, thinking about everything he heard from the goddess ever since she brought Espada to her realm, and everything he learned after she fused them all to recreate him. It is clear to him that she wants him to save the yin. That much is obvious. Otherwise, she wouldn't have even bothered to recreate him and send him back. Now, while he is thankful that the goddess was giving him a new chance in life, Naruto couldn't just let go of everything that he has been through while he was living in the yin. All the loneliness, pain, suffering. It was too much, and he wants revenge. But the goddess wants him to save those fools who live in the yin. So basically, Naruto doesn't know what to do, especially now that he knows that he has at least one member of his family still alive, and that, whoever she is, will die unless he saves her. Naruto groaned and thought in his head. Fuck. Naruto was standing in the middle of the forest, not that far from Konoha as he thought he will be. All around him, there are trees lying on the ground, most of them completely destroyed while some relatively undamaged, except they were ripped out from the roots. Naruto was standing on one of those trees and was looking down at the girl, who was apparently his cousin, and who he is supposed to save. It just had to be her, Naruto said to himself. And how the hell is she still alive? It's been around 3 days since her battle with Shikamaru, and I'm assuming Temari, judging by the damage done to the forest, which can only be done by a very powerful wind-type jutsu. He sighed, and then jumped down from the destroyed tree, right next to the girl's upper body. Her lower was buried under the trees, which have fallen on her legs and most definitely crushed them into oblivion. I doubt there is a single unbroken bone in her lower body. Naruto commented to himself. The goddess was right. She's probably only alive because she is in a coma. She would have died from the pain if she was conscious. Naruto kneeled next to the girl and looked at her for a few minutes, thinking if it would be better to just let her die, instead of going through with what the goddess told him. Triple X flashback, Triple X. Tell me, Naruto asked just before the goddess was about to send him back. How am I supposed to save this girl? Whoever she is. I'm not a medic, and none of Espada had skills to heal others. They could only regenerate themselves. You need to understand, Naruto, that you are different than the Espada were, the goddess said. All of your powers, which Espada had, are now joined and amplified. Because of the high-speed regeneration, you are now virtually immortal, as you can regenerate yourself even if the only thing left of you is a single cell. This was a news and a big surprise for Naruto, as he didn't think that his high-speed regeneration would now be that powerful. Of all the Espada, Ulquiorra had the best high-speed regeneration, and even he had his limits, as he couldn't regenerate his brain and other internal organs. But now, with all Espada joined back into the original Naruto, his HSR went off the charts. What does that have to do with healing the girl? Naruto asked. Unlike the Espada who could only regenerate themselves, your blood now has a capabilities of transformation, the goddess said, and Naruto was utterly confused, which was shown on his face. He had no idea what she was talking about. Your blood can transform humans into human/hollow hybrid, just like you are, the goddess finally said, making Naruto's eyes bug out of their sockets. You cannot be serious. Naruto said. I am. The goddess confirmed. So you actually want me to turn her into a human/hollow hybrid? Naruto questioned. Why would I do that? And did you even ask yourself what would she want? Would she want to simply die? Or be turned into partial monster? She wants to live. Naruto, the goddess sighed. She fought for 6 days, trying to survive, and unconsciously hoping that someone would find her and rescue her. After 6th day, she finally died. She was in a coma, all time, which is one of the reasons she lasted for so long. But as I said, even thought she was in coma, she fought to last as long as possible. As for the part of her becoming a partial monster, as you put it, I don't think she would want that, but if she was to be given the option of choosing between death or life as something more than a human, then I'm sure she would choose the latter. Naruto shook his head and sighed. How exactly are this girl and I related? You never said that. She is half Uzumaki, just like you, the goddess said, while Naruto rose his eyebrows. Your mother was from the Uzumaki clan, while your father was Konoha's 4th Hokage. Naruto's eyes bugged out again. The goddess then went and explained to Naruto the history of the Uzumaki clan and what caused their ending. She then went and told him what happened on the night of his birth and why the 9 tails ended up sealed inside of him. By then, Naruto was pissed beyond belief, not only because of what happened to his mother's clan, but because his father is the village hero, while he was treated like garbage and even executed for doing his mission. How many times has he asked the third about his parents, only for the old bastard to tell him how he doesn't know who they were, and that Naruto shouldn't pay that much attention to finding out, as there is no point. Since, if they are dead, then they are dead, and nothing will change if he finds out who they were. But if they are still alive, then that would mean that they abandoned him. The old man said that sometimes, some things are better left unknown. Damn you, Sarutobi. Naruto raged in his head. Damn you, Konoha. Damn you all to hell. Triple X flashback and Triple X. Naruto woke up from his memories and then decided to just finish this off already and go to find someplace where he and Tayuya can stay for a little while. He bit his right thumb, drawing blood, before he moved the hand above Tayuya's slightly opened mouth and let a single drop of it fall into her mouth. Triple X. Tayuya felt like she was starting to regain her consciousness. Up until now, all she felt was like she was floating into an endless space, where, outside of the fact she knew she was there, she didn't have any other senses. This has gone for what felt like eternity to her, but then, she felt a sudden warmth which spread around her body, before she felt excruciating pain, unlike any she has felt before, and she was given the cursed seal by Orochimaru. Because of the pain, she finally lost the grip she had on her conscience and blacked out completely. She has no idea how long it's been since that moment, but now, she can feel herself lying on something soft. She thought it must be a bed. She could also hear some noise in the background, though it wasn't so loud as to be annoying. Finally, she felt that there is something different about her. She just didn't know what it was. She opened her eyes, slowly, as to adjust to the light. And because she was in a coma for a few days, which made her feel very tired and sluggish. Through the bleary sight, she looked around, trying to figure out where she was. The first thing she noticed is that she was in a normal-looking room and lying on the bed, as she previously thought. Then, she realized that this is not one of the rooms in Orochimaru's lair, as they are all underground and thus dark, while the room she is in has a small window, which is letting a good amount of sunlight enter it. Before Tayuya could see anything else in the room, which would help her figure out where she is, she heard a voice. "I see you are finally awake," the voice said, startling Tayuya in the process and making her look toward where it came from. "It's about time. It was getting boring just sitting here." The voice has instantly cleared her eyesight, thus allowing Tayuya to see Naruto, who was currently seating on an armchair across from the bed she was lying on. The moment her eyes laid on Naruto and she took in his form and smirking face, she blushed heavily. This didn't escape Naruto, whose smirk widened. "Oh, is little Tayuya blushing just from seeing little old me?" Naruto teased Tayuya, whose blush widened for a moment before her eyes flared in rage. "Shut up, you cocksucker!" Tayuya exploded at Naruto. "And who the hell are you?" Naruto's smirk vanished in an instant, only to be replaced by a scowl and narrowed eyes. The look on his face made Tayuya recoil a little in fright. "Listen to me carefully, Tayuya," Naruto said in even voice, not projecting any anger whatsoever. But Tayuya knew better than to assume he is not angry. "Orochimaru and your old buddies might have tolerated your foul language, but I will not. Do you understand?" Naruto's words were laced with power, which scared the shit out of Tayuya, who nodded her head vigorously. Naruto's calm tone and the threat reminded Tayuya far too much of Orochimaru, and she knew better than to anger Orochimaru. Otherwise, she will find herself on an experiment table. With Naruto, on the other hand, she doesn't know what to expect, so potentially, he is even worse than Orochimaru, especially since she can feel the power rolling off of him in waves and pressing on her whole body. It was suffocating. Tayuya gulped, and then politely asked, being careful not to utter some foul word. "Or who knows what might happen? Who are you? Where am I? And what happened to me?" Naruto looked Tayuya in the eyes for a few moments before he sighed. "You can call me Alessandro Stark." "Here," Tayuya interrupted him. "Is that your real name?" She asked because it sounded strange to her that Naruto said, "You can call me," instead of just saying my name is. "No," Naruto simply said, and Tayuya gave him a deadpan look. "My real name is not important, so as I said, call me Alessandro Stark. We are currently in an inn, in a small town, not far from where I found you. As for what happened to you, well, you got your ass handed to you by the heir of the Nara clan and the daughter of the late 4th Kazekage. They almost killed you, and you would have died if I didn't find you and saved you." When Naruto said what happened to her, Tayuya's memories resurfaced, and she remembered the battle she was in against the Shadow Bastard. Before that sand horde joined in and blew her with that thrice-damned wind jutsu of hers. The last thing she remembered was the unbelievable pain in her legs, which at that point were pressed under the several tons of weight from the trees which were destroyed by Temari's wind jutsu. She remembered how she used most of the chakra she had left and redirected it into her heart and brain, leaving barely anything for the rest of her body. This has almost completely shut down the rest of her body, though. She did that in order to survive as long as possible and hope that someone will find her and save her from dying. Apparently, someone did find her. Tayuya then looked at herself and at her legs, which she can move normally. In fact, she felt so good that if she didn't know better, she would have thought that nothing happened to her and that it was all a dream. "How are my legs all healed?" Tayuya asked. "They were buried under that rubble of trees, and there is no way to heal something like that. Not even Orochimaru's former teammate, Tsunade Senju, would be able to heal my legs." Naruto smirked a little. "I never said I healed you, did I?" This made Tayuya even more confused and made her want to rage and swear to hell and back, but managed to hold her tongue. "Then who did?" she asked. "You weren't healed, Tayuya," Naruto said. "You were reconstructed." "What the fuck does that mean?" Tayuya shouted, before she realized that she swore, and clapped her hand over her mouth, while looking at Naruto's narrowed eyes with her wide and fearful ones. Naruto decided to forget about her slip-up and focused on explaining to Tayuya what he did to her, and what she is right now. It took him a few minutes, but Naruto was finally finished with his explanation and was now looking at Tayuya, who had a blank look on her face. The silence lasted for about 5 minutes before Tayuya took a deep breath and looked at Naruto. So, what am I right now? You are just like me, Naruto said. Half human, half hollow. Because of that, you now have two forms of power. One is chakra, while the other is called Riryoku. As such, you need training to be able to separate them and use them, since ninja techniques wouldn't work if you mix Riryoku into them by accident. The same goes for hollow techniques, which won't work with chakra. Do you understand? Tayuya nodded, confirming that she understood, though she was having a hard time believing in everything Naruto, or Alessandro, as he doesn't want to tell her his real name, has told her. Tayuya has always thought that the world she knew is very big, and that there is already too much unbelievable stuff in it. So there is no way that there is something even more unbelievable. Right? She was wrong, and now she knows about it. She did wonder if there is someone else in the yin who actually knows about everything that Naruto told her. Or are the two of them the only of their kind and the only ones who know about soul reapers and hollows and all the yin? She also wondered about how Alessandro became what he is, since that is something he didn't tell her and refuses to tell her. At least for now. Tayuya sighed and looked at Naruto. What now? We are staying here until tomorrow, so that you can get used to your new self, Naruto said, and then we are heading to Tanzakagai, so that I can make some money. Tayuya looked at Naruto with raised eyebrows and asked, why Tanzakagai? What do you actually do to get money? You never mentioned that, and I doubt you are a ninja affiliated with any village. I was affiliated to a village until not that long ago, Naruto said, surprising Tayuya as he said that, but I'm not anymore, which means that I need to get money however I can, especially now that you are with me. The money I used to pay for this room was the money I liberated from the corpses of some bandits I run into on the way here, Naruto said with a straight face, making Tayuya shudder because of how cold he sounded when he said that. I divided that money in two groups, one for the food and other expenses for the next 2 weeks, while 2 more weeks worth of money I will use inside of some gambling halls in Tanzakagai. But why gamble what little money you have? Tayuya asked. There is no way for you to know that you will actually make some money in the gambling houses and not lose everything. Why not keep it, and we can search for some rogue ninja for bounties? That might take a while, Naruto said. We don't even know where to begin to look and how long it will take. On the other hand, I'm very lucky when it comes to gambling. I guess you can say that all the bad luck I had in life was balanced by the good luck I had in gambling. Also, it will take a while for you to learn to control your new powers, and until that happens, I don't want you to battle against anyone and risk dying. After I went through the trouble of all but reviving you. Tayuya was taken aback by Naruto's words, as she didn't think he actually cares about her. Then again, he did mention during his earlier explanation that they are cousins, as he is half Uzumaki, just like she is. Fine, she finally said. I need you to do something for me before we leave this place, though. Naruto rose his eyebrows in interest. What do you need? He asked. Orochimaru has spies everywhere, she said, which is why I need a disguise to hide my face so that he won't find out that I'm alive, since I'm assuming he thinks I'm dead, as I have never returned to Sound Village, and he can feel the curse mark on all those he placed it on. Now that it is gone, after the reconstruction, he will most definitely think I'm dead, but it's still better to hide for a while, just in case. I wouldn't worry about Orochimaru if I were you, Naruto said. He won't be able to get to you without going through me first. But if you wish to hide for a while, then I will try to find you something else to wear and some mask for your face. Tayuya was very surprised by the fact that Alessandro doesn't seem to be afraid of Orochimaru. She knew exactly how powerful the snake pedo is, and as such is wondering if Alessandro is not afraid because he is that strong, or because he is severely overestimating himself and underestimating Orochimaru. Whichever of the two is, she is sure that one day, maybe even very soon, she will find out. She can only hope that Alessandro really is as strong as he makes himself to be, because if he isn't and Orochimaru gets his hands on her, well, she would rather die than end up as an experiment for Orochimaru and his butt buddy, Kabuto. With their conversation finished, for now, Naruto left to get some food for Tayuya, since she hasn't eaten anything in nearly 5 days and is probably starving. Tayuya stayed in bed, as Naruto told her not to get up for a little while longer, to allow her body to adjust to the changes and went through. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for today.